everybody to my second podcast. My name is Maria Vallaneda. I'm a real estate broker with Compass. I'm also the founder and CEO of MBAK Capital Group. As you know, we discussed several issues related to the real estate market, basically in New York. I have the super luck to be with an amazing colleague. She's killing it on Instagram, social media. Her name is Mckenzie Ryan. Hi, Mckenzie.
Hi, Maria. How are you?
Yeah, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's lovely to join you all the way from California, and I'm happy we can be together today.
Great to see you. Well, basically, I want to cover a little bit, let's say, the silver linings of the situation. We all know what's going on, but I just wanted to make sure, like, we, sort of let know everybody what we're doing to keep ourselves sort of active, particularly what are you doing, how social media is basically helping you, and just go yourself.
All right, great. Well, I think first and foremost, showing that you're active in a way where you're connecting directly with your clients and your sphere is the most important thing that you can do. And I think that comes in the form of a phone call or a letter, first and foremost. I think then, being able to reach out to people in sort of a more mass setting like email would be, the second step, where you can send a direct email, or obviously, Compass has so many great email tools now where they have like the live video and they have video recordings and all these like great new like postcards that can open up directly in someone's inbox. But directly to your question, I think of social media as like a supplement to everything that I just laid out. I think social media should reinforce what you're personally doing in terms of your business, in terms of being active with your clients in your sphere, because social media is more of a way to like reinforce the fact that you run a successful company and you're able to brand yourself and replicate your success over and over through social media. And so in my mind, it's sort of a way of like, if someone opens their feed and they see that I've just listed something, whether they'd already received a phone call from me or an email first, I think it's a really nice follow-up, to sort of see that either picture or video or post where it's like, oh, wow, maybe I didn't get to, Mackenzie's phone call, but I see that she is listing stuff, and it keeps real estate and it keeps you at the top of everyone's mind, which is what marketing is all about, just constantly being like at the top. So when they finally are thinking of doing something, you're the first company or you're the first brand that comes to mind.
Perfect. I think it's like all America is basically discussing, this balance between staying safe and business continuity. What's your take on this?
Yeah, well, I think in many ways they need to go hand in hand. And what's been great about, being at Compass is that, we've been provided these great tools where we can continue to run our business in a safe manner and, practicing caution. To that extent, I've been very active with getting properties ready to list on the market. And that ranges from photography to floor plans to virtual showings as well. So what I've really learned, particularly because I'm not in New York at all, so it's like I'm so used to physically doing the work myself and being at the photo shoots and being, on site for all this, is that we can actually run a virtual real estate business, albeit I don't know for how long, I don't know if it's permanent, but we definitely can learn to supplement some of our physical in-person time by using this new sort of virtual way of conducting business. So while I think it's important that we are safe and we are healthy, I think we also still have to keep going. And I think right now is such a great opportunity to solidify, ourselves as not just thought leaders, but the broker or the business advisor that our clients will learn to really lean on in these times, because we showed that we were there, and not just there, but we were proactive and pushing to, keep the market going, which I think is just so important. We have to keep our foot on the pedal. Like, we have to keep going if we don't want the market to really take a downturn.
Do you think like things like, obviously, let's say virtual staging or the 3D virtual tours, are they taking a part of this of the social media segment, or is something that if you have a very specific client, you will just send that to them? I just want to make sure we target the right audience at the right time. And if people are sending this to everyone, they're posting like what they have to, to everybody to see it, or it's just, okay, I have this buyer in particular, I'm going to send this property, this tour, and that's it.
Using our database of buyers or sellers or people that we've crossed paths with specifically that would have an interest in the property, that's the first avenue to start with, because we already know that real estate is on their mind. And on the second layer of things, and more specifically, if we've been in touch with them in the last year, if we've worked with them, if we know they're interested, then those are the warm and hot sort of leads that our marketing efforts should first go to. And that specific outreach should be personalized, it should be direct, and it should also feature the virtual staging or the virtual tours that we offer. And then again, I think supplementary, I think it's great to provide that same sort of access to a larger sphere via your social media or via like an email campaign. But I think really in reality, if you're looking to like sell something, it's going to have to be a direct and personalized approach.
Yes, I believe we do have, this battery of new tools that are amazing, obviously, to continue the market. But if you have to choose, what's your best weapon right now? What is that?
My best weapon is my phone calls. My phone calls are, for whatever reason, I just feel as though I'm talking to the person face to face. So usually it's on speaker so that I can just move freely. And phone calls to me are so personalized because you have the opportunity to connect with the person. You can really hear the tone of their voice. You can hear the excitement. And so for me, it's like I'm selling an apartment, but I'm just on the phone. I also think FaceTime is great as well. I'm like, even though I'm in my 20s, I'm like, thank you. I'm like, so I guess you could even call it like retro old school, but like, I don't really use Zoom that much. The truth of the matter is I just like to stick with traditional and sort of basic forms of what I know works best. And what helps me sell real estate is my excitement and my enthusiasm about the property, about the project. And that goes hand in hand with my determination to, help move my client forward in life, whether it's through selling a property or helping them buy one. And so through enthusiasm and determination, those have to be the things that I showcase. And I have to be on a platform where I can showcase those, because that's how I transact. So a phone call is what's best for me because I'm excited about what I do each day. And if I'm thinking too much about recording a video, or I'm thinking too much about hiring someone else to, do a rendering or, do a virtual tour, I get lost. And if I get lost, then the mission of selling or buying a property also gets lost. So you have to lead with your most valuable asset. And for me, that's my enthusiasm to sell.
Perfect. That's wonderful to hear. I have a question on, I think our lives from now on, are totally changed because even if the pandemic, it's not going to stop. We know that. It can be like control, but our lifestyle, it's going to be different, right? Do you think that will, translate in different selling points? Like people will take, more consideration on how the home is in the inside instead of the location or the proximity to, shopping, restaurants, whatever. Do you think that will change at all, or?
Yeah, I think that will have, I think the long-term, excuse me, I think the long-term and lasting effects of all this is that we're going to put more emphasis on the actual home itself and on the space. For anyone living in New York or living in a dense city, we tend to try to find the best of all worlds, as in have a nice apartment or nice house, live in a good location, have some nice amenities, and ideally have a nice price tag that you purchase it for. Especially in New York, where it's, such a social place where you're going out to dinners and restaurants and plays and for cocktails and to see friends, a lot of the aspect of home sort of gets lost in that shuffle. But what I think most people have come to realize who have had to shelter in place in a city where, they may not have that big of an apartment, and we're talking about New York City big, it's like having 600-700 square feet is sort of like an average one bedroom. I know that varies across the country and for people who are, tuning into your podcast. But in New York, if you're only in 600 square feet and none of the restaurants are open and none of the great aspects of living in New York are open, you really start to focus on the space itself. And me, having grown up in New York, space has always been the biggest thing for me and my family, because I'm the youngest with 2 siblings and my parents, and we had a dog. So it's like having actual square footage was always the most important thing to us, because everything else is almost like supplementary. It's like having great amenities. Sure. I mean, New York is your greatest amenity. You can go outside for a run. You can go to the park. Having like these state-of-the-art amenity packages, which I know you work with a lot with your projects. I think all of that's great, but it's like, how often do you actually use those amenities for you to be paying for them, not just in the sales price, but then continuing on like a monthly basis through your common charges?
Do you think that will change like the approach of the developers? For example, like for the past, I would say like 3-4 years, they have been like sort of creating these amazing amenities with everything. And now, like, I don't know if I want to share that pool knowing that someone can be sick,
Right.
Do you think that will change the approach, like in the construction,
I think it definitely will alter it. And I think developers are going to focus more on building spaces, and more so like the home you're sitting in, translating that into an actual apartment, having the amenities and the feel of having like a real home versus just an apartment that you live in. I think will definitely reflect in either current developments or future developments, because there are a lot of developers who, like you mentioned, have just been building out these state-of-the-art amenity packages. And whether you use them or not, I think moving forward, people are inherently going to be more cautious about shared spaces. So I think we'll start to see some of those amenity packages sort of built into the home itself. Maybe you have your own private sauna. Maybe you have a small, spare room that you can use for a workout space or Peloton bikes. I'm sure developers are going to start investing in, some small gym packages for residents to use in their actual apartments. And I'm sure those will play out as like bonuses for, signing contracts.
I'm waiting for more private pools.
Yeah. Well, private pools in New York, as we know, are always luxurious, but no one ever wants to. Yeah.
And then what do you think, I know we do not have, the magic here, but in terms of pricing, do you think what I've been suffering, like I do have a lot of buyers right now, but they are most of my buyers are investors, so they're very aggressive in terms of, and they understand what's going on in the world. They understand how hard it's going to be the situation in the next year, 2 years or so. It's very hard for us to translate that information to the sellers. do you think they will actually realize how long it takes for a seller basically to realize? I've seen properties that we're putting offers and they've been in the market for 4 years now, and they have been in a good market in 4 years. From, the past 4 years were relatively okay. I feel like there is like, there's going to be a disruption, of course, but do you think, what's your pricing?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tap into my crystal ball here. Pricing is probably the most difficult thing to do right now because we're not going to have any real empirical data until, the next quarter won't even really tell us that much because so many people have pulled their listings off the market. I really think we're going to have to wait until either the fourth quarter of 2020 or the first quarter of 2021 to have a real idea of how things really played out in terms of price. Because everyone can throw percentages around saying the market's down 20%, it's going to go down 30%, but first and foremost, for whatever listings are still on the market, they're on for a specific reason. It's either that the owner or the seller is in a position where they're looking to sell because they have, another property they're buying. Maybe they entered contract before all this happened. Maybe they're just fine selling their property. And I have clients who are like that because they believe they have a desirable property that has a great buyer for it on the other end. And that's one thing we also need to keep in mind. This just isn't like a desperation fire sale market. There are still valuable properties where people, would absolutely want to live, particularly those who may be inside of smaller homes who just really want to upgrade. So I think pricing is going to be so discretionary. But, I think going into 2020, a lot of the market experts shared that, in pricing, we should be pricing about 5 to 10% lower than we were in 2019 and 2018. So the market had already taken, somewhat of a correction. And as we know, it was a very busy market in January, February, and March was like flying until all this happened. So I think pricing, we all are just going to have to be super realistic with not just our sellers, but with our buyers. And I think this is just going to rely on us being fair to one another, because I know your investors are looking to pick up deals, and as are mine, but people still need to cover their bottom line, and they still need to ideally make a small profit, because that's how our economy keeps growing. With your profit, you can invest in other things. So pricing, my crystal ball says it will go down a little bit, but I don't think we're going to take as drastic of a dip as I think people want to. And I put that into quotations because I think people want the market to take a hit for personal and, personal determinations to pick up properties and sort of fire sale prices. But, if we're looking to have a healthy economy, I don't think that's the best route for all of us to take.
No, thank you. And just, to close a little bit, what's your most, your best advice at this time? And, the most positive advice, it's not that I just want to hear nice things, but I think it's part of our jobs, to keep deals going on, make them. I always feel like we are market makers, like the same way, like we educate both buyers and sellers, to have deals done. I would love to hear what's your take on, recommendations to either agents or buyers and sellers in the market.
Yeah, well, as an agent, I started at the beginning of the financial crisis, and the way I got my start was educating and convincing buyers to purchase in a very difficult market. And, in those times, there was no credit available. It was very difficult to, line up financing. And so you had to get really creative, but you also had to get super tough. but with the understanding that you were investing in one of the greatest assets in the world, and you're investing during a time where you're most certainly going to reap the benefits in a number of years once the market had turned around. So I always look at opportunity. And I think right now is a tremendous opportunity for people to upgrade across the board. So if you're a renter and you've been thinking about buying, now is the perfect time to upgrade. If you're living in a studio that you own, yes, will you be able to sell your property? Absolutely. Will it be at the sky high price that you may have wanted a number of years ago? Likely not, but where you get that back is when you're buying. You have so much buying power right now. So the ability to upgrade your real estate in this market is a tremendous opportunity that I think everyone should really look for. If you're only looking at the fact that you may lose a couple % on the sale, I think this is probably the wrong market for you to transact in, period. But if you're someone who's opportunistic and you're aggressive and you believe in long-term investments, which if you're getting into New York City real estate, you have to, because it's all about long-term. You're never going to make anything in 1 to 2 years unless it's a special sort of case. You just have to really look at the upside here. And if you're really thinking about it, our market's already been down a few % headed into 2020. It'll go down a little bit more after all this has leveled out a little bit. It's one of the best times ever you could possibly buy in the history of real estate, period. Interest rates are expected to go down as well. So you just have to see opportunity, and to see opportunity, you have to see upside as well. So for agents, you need to be working every day. You need to be not just optimistic, but positive. I think positive is more of like a driving power to actually have initiative to get things done and to help our real estate market move forward. For buyers and sellers, I think now more than ever is the time to really speak with your real estate agents. And I think it's the time to really consider, if you're looking to stay in New York for a number of years, it's a great time to invest into the market. And there are so many properties, as you know, that are now off the market where you can, likely negotiate a deal directly, where your agent can go in and negotiate on your behalf. It's like one of the golden ages of real estate, although I'm sure most people won't see it that way. But if you are looking at long-term opportunity, I would certainly say it is.
Thank you so much. I agree totally. I feel like whenever a lot of people see a crisis, is extremely important to see there is also opportunities. Most people who are like ridiculously rich basically made their money either in a distressed situation. I mean, they had the guts to invest. I'm very happy. I'm just purchased a property, and everybody said like, "Oh, probably you're crazy. Maybe the market goes down." I don't know how much, but I do feel like, you always have a curve.
Yeah.
And might not just, catch the specific button, but if you're very close, you will get like an amazing deal anyways. So I always try to, be positive, translate that to my investors, my friends, my colleagues, and I think we're gonna get out of here, this situation. And the thing is, just get out of this situation with something, just make sure, like, if you had the pockets to invest right now, it's a great moment.
Yeah, absolutely. We will get out of this, and our market will certainly be a little bit different, but I think we will have weathered an extremely difficult circumstance with a lot of grace, but also with a lot of innovation, as we've already been doing. So I think we just keep working every single day, and we keep pushing, and I think that will only advance our abilities to help vitalize Manhattan's market.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I super appreciate your time. I'm a big fan. Every time I see your pictures, I'm like, damn, that's really good. I hope I could get those shots. So I really, really appreciate appreciate that you join us. And, you know, all my best wishes for you in this moment. And again, I think like we are going to overcome it, and we are going to do much better than what most people think.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. I'll talk to you soon.